and welcome to Otterwood Cottage, our beautiful and finally sunny Smallholding in the heart of the Lincolnshire countryside. I'm Emma and we're delighted to have you along with us. Okay, today I have brought you to the kitchen garden. So this is immediately, the house is just the other side of the camera. The conservatory where you've seen us do some of our seedling sowing happens just that side of the camera, and to the left and to the rear of the house is a fairly large by the standards of our last house, but a small comparative to the rest of our land here, garden, which at the moment is laid to lawn, and we are going to, the long-term plan is that we'll keep a little bit of lawn here, but we are hoping to build a bit of an outdoor kitchen to the side of the house so that we can in the summer come out here and enjoy barbecues and be able to take advantage of the warmer weather. I'll show you in a moment with a bit of a scan round. We still have the eucalyptus tree down here. We spoke about the last time we had time to cut the eucalyptus with the chainsaw was really slippy weather, and for various reasons we just thought it wasn't very safe to be trying to use a chainsaw when the ground was frozen solid, and we a couple of times had slipped on the grassy areas moving other things. So for now the eucalyptus tree remains in situ, fallen down, but we will be chopping that up and drying that for other uses. The area behind that, which is behind me just now, is where we're planning to put the kitchen garden. So the one place on the property where we are planning to have raised beds, as you'll know from our previous videos, in the main growing area, the veg plot, we're using in-ground beds, but for the kitchen garden, which will be herbs, spices, pollinating plants, so a combination of really pretty to look at while we're sitting out here, and also nice and convenient for those things that you like to just cut and bring straight into the kitchen whilst cooking. So kind of herbs and spices will be going in the raised beds here. We found a really good deal by chance from Debenhams, of all places. We weren't really expecting Debenhams to stock raised beds, but they had a really good deal on a kind of clearance offer, so we jumped on that and got 8 of them, which Wilkes made up for us while we've been away for work and doing other things this week. So they're ready to go into the layout. So what we're planning to do with them is form 2 kind of squares with, so 2 sets of 4 into a square offset from one another. I'll show you a brief, very rough sketch of what we mean by that in a moment. And then in the middle of each of those sets of 4, we're thinking of putting a rose. So again, to kind of contribute to the prettiness of the space, because this is where we will be spending time during the summer. So this morning's plan, I'm due out later, little Mrs. home, and we've got some adventures to go on today. So we're up early, ready to get these laid out where we want them, and then Mr. H, while little Miss and I are out, is going to start to fill those with the compost and wood chip that we are still trying to shift from our hard standing. But we'll show you a little bit of us laying out the garden beds, and I'll catch up with you later. Right, a little bit of jiggery pokery, and this is where we've got to. So we've got our first set of 4 offset from one another, and then in the middle there we're intending to have a rose bush, and then the second set of 4 there. We have tested with the wheelbarrow, and it passes the wheelbarrow test. So the view from there, oh look, Ava cam. Ava! Hiya! Hello! 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 So, I want you to imagine it with me. We're sitting outside. We've just cooked a pizza or a nice barbecue over here. The sun is shining, just like today, but with a bit more heat. There's no fallen eucalyptus here. Maybe the chimney is going if it's a little bit chilly in the evening, and we'll be looking out on using your imagination now. All of these beds filled with beautiful flowering herbs, pollinating plants, listening to the buzz of the bees as they come and visit and take the nectar. I can just see it, can you? It's going to be fab. The next job of the morning before mummy-daughter adventures is to plant the final fruit going in this fruit cage, which is this thornless Loganberry. You'll remember that we had to reorder all of the trees because they were chomped by bunnies, and we spotted when we reordered that in the original order the Loganberry said it had been delivered, but it wasn't with the order, and I've got to give it to Roots Plants because it was a month before I noticed, and that was entirely our fault. We should have checked the order. We weren't here when it arrived for various reasons. It wasn't checked, and they have been fantastic. They didn't question me, they didn't kind of ask me for any proof, they just trusted me that it hadn't arrived, and they sent it out straight away. It was with us within a couple of days, so thank you to Roots Plants for being fabulous. So this is going in the ground very quickly, and I'm going to pop it in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the middle of these two here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, nicely in the middle. And the idea is that it will grow up the outer net, and just like I said with the raspberries, that's kind of a decision that we've accepted. Originally we thought we were going to try and keep everything away from the nets, but the space in here, no matter how much space you think you've got, you then always immediately, in a very greedy way, wish you had more. So this will grow through the net and mean that some of the fruit are exposed to being pinched by birds, but we're okay with that. We don't mind sharing. There'll be plenty inside the cage, which will allow us to get our fair share. Loganberries are one of our absolute favourite fruits. We discovered them on our friend's Smallholding in Somerset. They grow them. They have a thorned version, which is pretty vicious, and so we decided to go for a thornless one, which we haven't tried. So we haven't tried this variety. We're hoping it's just as delicious as their thorned one. If it's not, we will bite the bullet and get a thorned one next time and pop that in next to this one. So Loganberry, I believe, is a cross between a raspberry and a blackberry, but it's like the size of a blackberry, the colour of a very dark raspberry, and it's got a raspberry taste but a little bit sharper, a little bit tartar, which we absolutely love. Just in a bowl with pouring cream on top is my favourite way to eat them. Absolutely yummy. They also make very delicious jam, which our friend Kitty makes with her Loganberries, and it is really yummy. So lots of possibilities for the Loganberries. In other news, you can see it's a beautifully sunny day. We are so thrilled to get some sunshine. It's been grey for such a long time. We were relatively Storm Ewan, I think it is, has just been through. Because we're East Coast, we fared relatively well from that. It was very blowy, things were rattling, but no damage. And then that seems to have blown away all of the clouds that have been hanging around. And we have this absolutely glorious window of one sunny day before tomorrow. We are back, unfortunately, to quite a significant amount of rain. We've got flood warnings again for Lincolnshire. And given that our land is still pretty badly flooded and retaining water, that is the last thing we need. But we're going into heavy rain from tomorrow and right through the week, which will stop play to some extent, but that is British weather, and that is, the amount of water we have is why we have such lush green lands, so we can't complain too much. We do just we're at that point of starting to crave drier days, so that we can get out here and get on. We'd really like to kind of finish the polytunnel. We've fallen into that trap of a job half done that kind of feels, because we got the frame up and it feels substantive and it's up and we can see that we've achieved something. There was so long spent kind of scrabbling around in the ground and measuring things out and digging holes, and it took so long to get it up out of the ground. And then we got the main frame up out of the ground and felt that really fantastic sense of satisfaction. And then we've walked away from it to other projects, mostly in fairness to us because the weather has just been too atrocious to even attempt to be doing anything above our heads, up ladders. The ground's been too frozen to dig or do anything around the polytunnel, but we do need, there's a little bit more. I say a little bit, you watch, it's going to be tons. But there's more to do in terms of the framing. The doors need to go on, the battens along the bottom, which are wooden, which the kind of polytunnel cover will attach to. So there's quite a bit to put on before we put the cover on. The cover we're definitely not putting on until we are sure that the worst of the storms have passed, for obvious reasons. And we do have a second polytunnel frame to go in. We're not going to be using it as a polytunnel, we're going to be using it as a brassica cage. We've got netting for that second one. And those tunnels will also be helpful depending on what the rules are when they come along for the various flock downs. When we have chickens, we'll be able to pop them in the winter months inside the polytunnel or inside the brassica cage with a shade cover over the top if they have to be covered. So we're hoping that they're a bit dual purpose, those areas, thinking ahead, knowing, having watched lots of people on YouTube talk about how the animal welfare when the flock downs come along can be heartbreaking if you're having to shut them in their house for extended periods of time. So we'd kind of thought ahead, and part of the reason we invested in those polys, apart from the growing potential of them, is that they will also provide shelter for our chickens in the winters, because it seems to be an annual thing now, the bird flu flock downs. So we'll be able to dual purpose those. Two other things to share with you. One piece of good news is the berry bushes in here that I thought had been completely decimated and lost. I'm seeing a couple, particularly one that had completely disappeared. There was no sign of it at all. I've just walked past. There's a tiny little bud coming out of the ground. So fingers crossed with me that they might just survive and make it, which would be amazing, because we made the decision, because of pennies and other things, not to replace absolutely everything in here and to just see what happened with the berry bushes. And I think that might have worked out for the best. Time will tell. It is a tiny thing, and there's still plenty of frosts and other things to come along, but let's hope it works. The other thing to mention about the berries is if they do survive, someone mentioned in the comments, and it was a really good point, the blueberry bushes, and there's 4 of those, do need to have ericaceous soil, which sounds very fancy, and I don't really understand what it means. I just know that it needs it. I think it's to do with a higher acidity. So often people plant them in pots with ericaceous soil in rather than in the ground. We did do our research on that, and I didn't mention it when we were planting them. So the place we bought them from, Roots Plants, suggested a liquid feed for them. So they can go in the ground. They have gone in the ground. We have an ericaceous liquid feed that at the right time we will feed them with, and that should give them the kind of higher acidity. I think it's that. Don't trust me on that, go and do your own research. But whatever it is they need, this liquid feed gives to them. We haven't given them the liquid feed yet, partly because it's not growing season, so we don't think it's the right time, but also because the ground is so flooded still, and in here it's not flooded in here, but it is verging on boggy. Not quite boggy, but the ground is very wet. And with all the rainfall that we've had and is coming, if we put a liquid feed on anything, it's just going to get washed straight away. So we're going to leave that until basically till the back of the pack says you should be applying it, which I think is early spring, probably after the too much risk of rain has gone and we're in growing season. So they will get what they need even though they're in the ground. But it was a good point because I didn't mention it when I was filming that video. And the other thing to tell you about is we've had a delivery of woodchip, and you might think, what on earth are you asking for more woodchip for when you haven't even moved the first pile? Which is a fair point, but this was free woodchip, and we use a site called Chip Drop, which is a free site for you as the user who wants to have woodchip delivered. Can highly recommend it if you have an allotment or a small holding, or if you're growing and have any need for wood chips. You just register on there as being interested in receiving wood chips, and local arborists and tree surgeons and people who have large amounts of wood chip to get rid of log on if they're working in your local area, see who's locally available, and it saves them money because oftentimes they have to pay to dispose of things like wood chips, which seems mad to me given how valuable they are to growers, and logs as well, and the cost of firewood. Amazing that they have to pay to dump it, but also, like in our case, the very lovely two chaps that came and dropped the wood chip off for us were from Derby, and although they did have a free site that they could get rid of it in Derby, the cost of the fuel to lug it all the way from here to there wasn't worth their time, and they'd much rather kind of help local people. So we had you can't kind of guarantee when the messages are going to come. They just come and they say, "Are you ready?" We were very gratefully saying yes. We couldn't have it delivered where the rest of it is, so it's over in the far field, what we call cow fields. So not particularly convenient for bringing it back over here, but for lots of reasons, we're never going to say no to it. We've got some, I'll show you, I'll take you over and show you a bit of footage of it, but there's some large logs which we will be able to season and use in the wood burner next year. We don't need our wood burner to heat our house fully. The Arga does that job in the winter for us, but we do have a wood burner, and when it gets very cold, it is really lovely to be able to have that on. So we don't need massive amounts of wood, but it's always helpful to have, and also we'd like to do kind of outside fires in the summer and things, so we'll be able to season that off. There's some really big bits of wood which we're thinking of using around the property for seating, and then there's a pile of wood chip, and what's lovely about it is it's the really fine stuff, what we were trying to do originally with our chipper and failed miserably, and have had to concede defeat and send that off to be repaired. About 2 weeks after we got it, we broke it. Stunningly brilliant of us. So that's currently with a local chap to be repaired. So we've been able to get some of that really fine stuff, which we're not going to be able to make at home with older wood chip. We will be able to make it at home with fresh stuff. And what else to update you on? The final thing to update you on is you'll have heard us talking about the delays to getting our hedgerows trimmed. You may be able to, can't quite tell if you can see behind me, not really, but our neighbour had a local farmer come, and this hedge behind me is their boundary on that side, and they had a local chap come and cut it for them. He's done an absolutely amazing job, and so we spoke to the neighbour, got his number, and for this year at least he's going to come when he's got time and do an initial cut on all of our hedgerows. Not here because he won't be able to get his tractor down the back where we've put these, but we can manage this bit. And the reason for that is we're just running out of time to be able to do it whilst it's still safe to do so for the birds. We don't want to get into a situation where we're still overgrown at the point birds are trying to nest, because we would hate to, well, we just wouldn't cut the hedgerows back when they're nesting, and then that causes us problems for being able to turn the electric fencing on. So it gets it done quickly whilst we're still trying to figure out where we're going to invest the money we do have in what equipment we're going to get, and also just in terms of time, we reckon it's probably a good couple of weeks of work, at least, if not 3 of the hours we have around work, Mr H and I being able to get the hedgerows done, and there are other priorities. So it's always balance, isn't it, between time, money and quality. You can have 2 of those things but not all 3, and this time we've decided to save the time so that we can have a quality cut, and it just means we're going to have to pay for it, so it's not free. But we're excited about getting that done, because it's going to mean that's one of the blockers. We've got a couple of blockers at the minute that are stopping us moving forward with work. The hedgerows is one, a tow bar on our car is another, and shifting that pile of wood chip and compost is the third. So they're 3 things that we've been a bit blocked on and not been able to get past. So it feels really good to have to know that the local chap is going to come and do the hedgerows when he has time. So I think that's you all caught up. Okay, a little view of the halfway point. Mr. H has been working hard and has filled the first 4 fully. Bottom of these have got cardboard, some manure that we picked up locally, a little bit of ash from the fire, some kind of chunks of cardboard we had kicking around that weren't really useful for much have gone in the bottom because the worms all love them. And then a mix of wood chip and compost in the bottom, kind of a take on hugel culture, never really sure how you say that. And then pure compost on the top. So the first 4 are done. Next step, those 4 there. And then we'll be ready to go. We shan't be planting into these for quite a while, obviously, not until the spring, but it's good to have them there, knowing they're ready to go when we're ready to plant into them. And we're still enjoying an absolutely beautiful day. So there we have it, all 8 beds are filled. We're just doing a little bit of tidying and sweeping. We've made a dent in the compost pile and the wood chip pile. It's starting to look like we are making progress. It's felt like a really fantastic day today, I think, mostly because the sun is out. And we are taking advantage of the fact it's been a fantastic day. It is only 3:30, there's still plenty of light left, but we're going to call it there. So this one's especially for some really good friends of Mr. H, Fiona and her lovely partner Tracy, who asked him the other day, do you two ever actually stop? So for you, we love you, I promise we do. This is just for you. We're stopping at 3:30. We're going to rot in the house for a while, watching telly, eating, drinking, and just chilling out for the rest of the afternoon. Hope you've enjoyed watching us build the beds, and we'll see you next week.